Another beautiful morning sa inyong tanan mga students sa Cebu Normal University, especially sa uh, current nga students nako din hikaron sa atuang subject sa atong course nga evolutionary biology. So I hope that you are fine. I hope that naamoy na learn as we progress na sa first half sa atuang semester. Okay, so I also hope nga okay ra ang inyong examination. Okay, so we are now sa final term. So dali ra kayong panahon, no. So kana siya. So we are now in the final term and nanata sa topic number 4. So mao natong hisgutan sa ato ang klase karon. So before that, ayaw kalimot sa pag subscribe sa katong isa nako ka channel kay kaning ato ang gihimo karon kay plainly for lecture or class purposes. So na ako'y isa ka channel, okay, sa Facebook and sa YouTube katong Edward Opena kana lang. Okay, so kana it's not really for monetization, just to give sana inspiration sa ato ang mga kababayan. Okay, so if you are kana lang kung ganahan mo, pero kung dili okay ra pod siya. Okay, so sige, so mag-start na ta sa ato ang klase. Okay, so kani. Okay, so I hope na naklaro na ninyo. So we are now in the final term sa ato ang subject nga evolutionary biology. Okay, so ang ato ang topic number 4, kung inyohang i-visit ang ato ang syllabus, so naa dito. Okay, so Earth's rocks and evolution. So atong discussan unsa man ang role sa kanang gitawag natong science of geology, kini siya science of geology sa atong pag-study sa evolution. So one of the field where evolution looks into is geology, the discipline that studies rocks of the earth. Okay, so mao na nga even before Charles Darwin sa katong ihang pag-publish sa ihang book sa Origin of Species, naana ni ang geology. Okay, so pila pa ka centuries before si Darwin was born, so naana ang science of geology. And then mao to nga naanay nakita nga mga fossil records. Okay, naanay fossil records before Charles Darwin. So what Charles Darwin did is iya lang tong kana bang establish nga fossils can be an evidence or argument for the evolutionary biology. So what intertwines geology with biology is that rocks hold a tremendous amount of clues to the history of the natural world, and those are the fossils. So mo na ilang giingon nga the rocks can tell the history of the natural world. So dinha na isa na to ang one of the ways in which we can understand the history of the natural world is to look into the fossil records. So makita nato didto ma-emphasize kung unsa ang mga ilahang flora and fauna, okay, unsa nga klase sa ecosystem ang ni-exist sa pila ka thousands of years. Kung moingon kag thousands of years sa katong mga katong mo believe og young earth, katong old earth is mo to nga millions of years ang i-emphasize. So in this topic, we need to understand the basics of geology and how it became significant in the study of evolution. Okay, so dinhi magsugod na ta. So the Earth's rocks. So take note nga sa kanibitang gitawag nato sa earth science or even in astronomy is that ang ato ang planet has been considered as one of the rocky planets. So Mars is one, Earth is another. Okay, so meaning to say, a good portion of our planet is made up of rocks. Kay di ba naampoy gitawag natong mga gas giants katong Jupiter and Saturn, they are actually considered as the gas giants. So sa atoa, we are considered as one of the rocky planets. Okay, so everything that is under our feet is considered as the solid earth, which is technically part of the earth's crust. So this is just a basic nga kaning gitawag na to earth science, di ba? Different layers of our planet. You have the crust, and then katong mantle, and then nakatong outer and inner cores. Okay, so basically ang kanang makita nato sa ato ang palibot, okay, it's actually part of the earth's crust. So the crust is divided into two: the continental crust, which is about 40%, and the oceanic crust, which is about 60%. So when you say continental crust, katong above the water or kanang makita nato sa land, kung ikuan nato is land, all rocks that are part of the land, okay, mo na gitawag nato continental crust or parts siya or components siya sa continental crust. On the other hand, ang oceanic crust are those that are submerged underwater. So makita nato nga mas bigger ang chunk sa oceanic crust. So through the movement of these tectonic plates, this crust can either be exposed to higher altitudes or shrink deep into the oceans. Okay, so we know nga ang kaning tectonic plates, they are actually they constantly move, di ba? So some of these movements are so strong nga ma-feel nato as kanang gitawag natong earthquake. So we have to remember nga every hour na ay mga earthquakes nga mahitabo even sa kanang atong gitindugan, and then only that these movements are not some, but many of these movements are too weak nga di nato ma-feel, di ba? So naapoy mga movements nga sudden ra kaayo, nga powerful kaayo, so mauna nga mangingon ta nga naglinog. Okay, so geologists believe that the past has more violent geological events, say for example earthquakes, volcanic eruptions compared to today. Hence we cannot place the events today to make conclusions of what happened in the past. So mana nga in the principles of geology, mas grabe ang movement sa Earth's crust. Okay, so mas daghan ang kanang gitawag natong earthquakes, mas violent, at the same time mas daghan ang volcanic eruption. Okay, so mao na nga dili nato ma-compare ang sa una og sa karon. Okay, so mas grabe, mas mingon tang halak usuga sa linog karon, no, mas ngilngig ang past nga mga earthquakes and past nga mga geologic ang mga activities. So basically there are 3 different types of Earth's rocks. So this is just basic science, di ba? Igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary. So each of these types have their distinct process of formation, so with the materials that are involved. Okay, so kini siya sa figure 4.1, the Earth's rocks are constantly being destroyed and constructed. So mao na nga naaragyo cycle ang ato ang Earth's rocks. Okay, so yan na siya. So this is the Earth's siya, the continental crust, and you have here the oceanic crust. So makita nato that there are a series of boundaries and kaning mga volcanic vents, di ba? Mura siya og kana bitang gitawag natong panghaw, sa Bisaya pa panghaw. So that is where the energy is mura gi pahungaw. Okay, man gitaw siya og panghaw. So mura siya og kanang katubitang heat is i-release niya. Okay, aron dili kayo ma-pressure ang sa ubos, especially sa hotter portions sa ato ang planet. Okay, so sedimentary rocks, many different so what is the type of rock that is most concerned with or most attached to evolution are the sedimentary rocks. Okay, so from the word sediments, so layers in sedimentary rocks are formed primarily in watery environments. So ang main characteristic of this kanang gitawag natong sedimentary rocks is that they are layered. Okay, makita nimo na sa mga stripes, but in fact kung moadto ka og mga bukid-bukid, and then kana bitaw na ay mga bag-o nga dalan nga gihimo, and then gibulldoze na siya, mura bi siya gislice ang part sa mountain, makita nimo kung naa na siya yung mga stripes, that is a sedimentary rock. Okay, mao na pinaka-common nato nga makita dinhi sa ato ang ato ang planet. Okay, where in fact ang kaning mga mountains kanang mga bukid, even ang kanang mga hills, kanang mga bungtod. Okay, so dako gyud ang chance nga that is a sedimentary rock. Okay, so again makita nimo na siya nga ang iyahang ma-identify na nimo nga sedimentary rock na siya kung naa siya yung mga layers. Okay, kanang gitawag natong layers. Okay, so they are formed in watery environments. Okay, so makapangutana dayon ta nga kanang kung naa siya sa watery environment na form ang sedimentary rocks, why is it nga kanang makita ni nato sa bukid? Okay, so mao na nga it is an evidence nga kanang bitaw, say for example this is a crust or kanang plate, and this is another plate. So by the time nga magtagbo na sila, okay, na isa nga mo subside, ang isa is i-push na siya up. Okay, inig-push niya. Okay, so say for example they are both underwater, so naay sediments nga na form din hi, so inig-push na niya maayo push some of these kanang plates are pushed high above the ocean to form the mountains. Later on, they will form the mountains. That is why it is no wonder why there are corals or mga marine nga mga kanang gitawag nato nga mga objects in high mountains, okay, sa tag-as nga mga bukid. Okay, so naay mga marine fossils taas sa bukid. So okay, excuse me. Okay, so for example, sa Siquijor, okay, sa Siquijor where dito taga dito man akong wife. So the entire island of Siquijor was once underwater. Okay, kay bisan pag moadto ka ibabaw sa bungtod sa Siquijor nga almost everyday ko maga-walking dito is makita gyud nimo nga naay mga corals, okay, mga fossils. Okay, so kinana siya. So and that is also true with many of the islands din sa Pilipinas. So sediments that are in the water will definitely descend and would later on solidify to make one layer. So the more the sediments, the thicker is the layer. So mo na nga. So one sediment after the other, mangitan this is one sediment, another sediment, another sediment, another sediment. And each sedimentary layer solidifies, mao na nga makita na din nato after many years, makita na nato nga na siya stripes. Okay, so different types of sedimentary are formed with different materials. So common examples are sandstone, mudstone, and limestone. Okay, so majority of the kaning gitawag natong islands in the Philippines are actually made up of limestone. Okay, majority ha, though not all. Okay, so majority is limestone. Mao na nga ari kag Cebu, even ang Cebu province is limestone. Okay, so bisag ato ka sa bukid kanang ginakuan bita quarry, limestone na siya. So that means to say they are once, ang Cebu was once underwater. Okay, so the process of strata formation is stratification, and stratigraphy pertains to the study of how such rock strata are formed. Okay, so though stratification can also be found in volcanic rocks. In this topic, we discuss only almost exclusively sedimentary rocks. It has the closest affiliation with that of evolution. So money, itong gimension ganiha, 3 different types. So you have the igneous. Okay, so it forms through the solidification of magma or lava. Okay, for ang sedimentary rocks, compaction of sediments, and metamorphic rocks through transformation of older rocks. So makita nato nga naay different, okay, naay different nga kanang gitawag nato nga rocks, and then asya mga different gitawag natong subtypes, di ba? So kana, okay, so coal and limestone, so these are actually part of the sedimentary rocks. So basalt, and then I think you can search sa inyong mga internet respective sa inyong respective time. You can search different minerals and rocks, and you can find there a diversity of the formation of these minerals, crystals, and rocks. Okay, so kana siya. So rock cycle, so you would notice here nga, take a look at this one, ang sediments once gani nga mo adto siya sa kanang paubos na. Take note nga sa ato ang planet Earth, di ba, the lower you go, the hotter is the temperature. Okay, so ang sedimentary rock, once it will be pushed down, okay, deeper into our planet, okay, it will be subjected to heat and pressure. So once this happens, so it will be transformed into metamorphic rocks. Okay, and these metamorphic rocks can become igneous rock. Okay, so igneous rock, mao na nga mahimo siyang sediments, dumbalik na po siya. So it's just na siya cycle. Okay, magitawag na itong rock cycle. Okay, so now dinhin nata sa geology column, because this geological, I know you are already familiar with this one. So let's just revisit this one. So when you say the geology column is an arbitrary series of different rock layers that represent different ages of the distant past, hence the geology column is one way to understand the history of the Earth. So kanang gitawag nato og geology column is kana bitaw ang pinaka bottom, di ba? So kung tan-aw nato ang kanang gitawag nato kaning sedimentary rock formation, so ang pinaka bottom we can say mao gyud unang na form, di ba? Logically, common sense, bisag common sense nato. So ang pinaka bottom is mo to'y unang na form, so meaning to say mo to'y pinakakaraan. So here comes another layer, another or set of layers. Okay, so ni follow siya. So so this will be a newer layer, ang second layer. Then here comes the third layer. Okay, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, or so on and so forth. So the higher you go to the geology column, the younger is the layer. And the deeper you go into the geology column, the older is the layer. Okay? So meaning to say, kung ang usa ka fossil is makita nimo sa ubos sa geology column, you can say that that is an older form or type of fossil, or it belongs to a period of time nga na-form siya ana nga unique kaysa sa katong other nga mga layers. Okay? So that is one way to understand the history of the earth. So though there are claims that an entire column can be found, yet it can hardly be verified. This means that being described in textbooks and websites is a result of compilation of the works of geologists. So take note ha that arbitrary na siya nga di na nimo makita nga sa isagyud ka kuan nga ma-complete na ang kanang gitawag nato nga sa usa ka location, sa usa ka location nga ma-complete kita nimo ang complete nga layer sa geologic column, but makuha na siya kana bitang isumpay-sumpay na niya because they can geologists they have this kaning method or technique nga kanang ilang nang i-measure ang kanang gitawag nato nga mga ilang i-trace ba. Okay, ilang i-trace ang kaning the extent of these sediment layers. Okay, and then mao to nga different depths. Okay, ang gilawmon lahi-lahi, and then different characteristics. So mao na nga inig isa niya, so you have the geologic column, where in fact kung adto ka sa pinaka common sa kanibitang gitawag nato nga kaning sa Arizona kaning say natangtay ko kanang makita mong mga rock formation nga it spans millions of hectares. Okay, millions of hectares nga iyahang gi-cover. Okay, sa US, di ba? Sa US, so pila ka states na, pila ka thousands of kilometers ang usara na siya ka layer. Okay, ang usara na siya ka layer. So hinana ka dagko kaayo ang kanang gitawag natong sedimentary rocks. Okay, the Grand Canyon naradi ay. So the Grand Canyon. So kana ang Grand Canyon makita nimo nga daghang kay nag layers, where in fact mato akong gi-mention ganiha nga tag millions of hectares ang ihang coverage. Okay? So, it's the world's most notable region to study the geologic column. Yet, we can find other canyons all over the world, even in Bukidnon, Philippines. Okay? So, daghan kayo og kanang canyon formation. So, the history of the Earth can be described in what is known as the geologic time scale, or the GTS. This is the placing of the chronological approximation of the rock's ages via different dating methods, which can be used in the approximation of the events of the natural world. So, mao to akong gi-mention ganiha nga katong nag-study sa origin of life. Okay, so the origin of life studies can use the geologic column and then superimpose niya sa kanang gitawag nato geologic time scale. So, kato akong gi-mention nga the lower ang katong gitawag natong fossils nga nakita, so the older yun siya, so mao na ni-refer na din ta sa geologic time scale. Okay, so meaning to say nagdepend ang geologic time scale is nagdepend siya kung pilay age sa rocks to superimpose or to approximate ang kanang gitawag natong age of katong mga fossils. Okay, so there are many divisions and subdivisions in GTS. The most common ones are the eras and epochs. So each of these subdivisions lasted for millions of years based on some estimates. So there are 4 eras: Precambrian, Paleozoic, Mesozoic, Cenozoic. So each of these eras have periods that were characterized based on the available fossil records. In turn, distinct ecosystems per period can be projected. So mana nga ma-estimate, kanang estimation lang na siya. So kung unsa ang klase sa flora and fauna per period. Okay, so say for example the Precambrian, so naa siya sa pinaka-bottom sa kaning sa eras. Paleozoic nasa ibabaw, Mesozoic, okay, so ibabaw, and then Cenozoic mas ibabaw pa gyud. So they believe nga nga each of these periods or eras, each of these era have their distinct ecosystem kana siya. Okay, based on the available fossil records. So the most common dating method used is the radiometric method, where the amount of nuclear particles of an element is determined and be used to estimate the age of rocks. So mo na ang radiometric method. Though there are already different methods. Okay, so say for example the carbon dating, pero ang carbon dating is for thousands of years lang. Okay, radiometric or radioisometric method, pwede na siya nga dinagko na nga time frame. So the modern concept of deep time, okay, so si Charles Lyell, tara. So ang deep time, siya ang nag first emphasize sa kaning gitawag nga tong deep time nga age of the earth. Okay, in his 3-volume book Principles of Geology. So Lyell's books aim to free the science from Moses, 'di ba? So mao na akong gi-mention sa inyo nga kanang isa sa mga controversial nga kanang gitawag nato nga field in sa biology is actually on kaning evolution. Okay, so sa kang Moses is mao nang gitawag og katong thousands of years. So mao na nga in contrast na siya sa kang what was proposed by Charles Lyell. Okay, so referring to the thousands of years estimates of the age of the earth as stipulated in the book of Genesis. So these books provided Darwin the millions of years as needed for his version the evolution to work. For Darwin, the only way to let natural selection produce the diversity of life from a single ancestor is to provide it with millions of years. So dinha na dayon, so mao to nga si Darwin was reading Charles Lyell's book on geology. So mao to nga niingon si Charles Darwin nga pwede mo fit di ay nga kanang ang iyahang theory nga iyahang na form sa iyahang version sa theory sa evolution is pwede siya mo fit sa billions of years, because bisan pag kung anon magud si Darwin is kung atong isubayon ang kang Darwin nga life. Darwin studied to become a priest, okay, or a minister. Okay, so theologian actually si Darwin, and then murag wa to siya kahuman sa iyang pag-theology. So most likely is naa siya strong Christian foundation si Charles Darwin. Okay, kay nagminister man siya, nag-theology man siya. So mao na nga one of the doctrines sa Christianity is thousands of years. So niingon si Darwin nga kung iyahang tan-ang katubit ang gitawag niya og adaptation sa katong dito sa Galapagos. So na-realize niya nga if thousands of years lang ang kaning gitawag nato nga age of the earth, it is not enough to produce the diversity of life kung iyahang basihan ang katong iyahang version sa evolution nga na ancestor, and then mao to nga ni speciate siya, ni speciate hangtod nga naka-form siya og diversity. So it is not enough kung hinana siya nga thousands of years lang ang ato ang planet. So dili siya enough to produce diversity of life if naa lang siya gamay or common ancestor. So mao na siya, so naa siya conflict. Okay, so kung mo believe siya og kanang thousands of years, dili enough ang ihang time frame nga maka-explain sa diversity of life. That is why ni subscribe si Charles Darwin sa millions or billions of years nga principle ni Charles Lyell, kay aron mo fit siya sa iyahang version of evolution. Okay, so mao na nga dinha na dayon ni sugod ang atong understanding or sa kanang sa science nga version nga life is not thousands of years, but it is a process or a result of a process nga ni take siya og that requires billions and billions of years. Okay, so kani siya. So this is from the Grand Canyon in Arizona, shows the massive deposits of sedimentary rocks. Okay, so makita ninyo din okay, so naa siya different layers of rock. So each layer is corresponding to a particular period of time in the history of our planet. Okay, so different strata. You see this one, mga stripes. Okay, so dinhi. Okay, so Grand Canyon Formation sa Bukidnon. So you can actually see this one. canyon formation in Bukidnon, Philippines. So you can see this stripes here, and it resembles to dinhi. Okay, ang iyang geological features resembles to that of the Grand Canyon. Okay, only that mas dako ang sa Grand Canyon, pero you cannot deny that this is also a canyon. Okay, so this is Charles Lyell. Okay, so I don't know kung napabay mag-portrait og parehas ani. Ganun na mo gyud bungot ilahang diri skilled, no. But anyway, laha po na. So this is a representation of the geologic column. Okay? So mo na itong dimension nga the deeper or the lower the layer, the older is the age of that layer. Okay? Siya man una ang ni settle down, di ba? Remember that sedimentary rocks are formed sa ocean or underwater. So according to them, according to the katong gitawag na to deep time nga mga advocates, so naay pila ka millions of years, another layer, pila ka millions of years. Okay, so pila ka millions of years hangtod nga the higher you go sa kanang gitawag natong geologic column, okay, the older or the younger, the younger are the fossils and the younger are the sediments. Okay, so mao po ni ang lahang postulate nga fossils that are found in the deeper portion of the kini gitawag natong geologic column mas simplified, and then ang complexity niya, okay, will increase as it moves higher to the geologic column. Okay, so mas complex niya. So meaning to say, niingon sila nga kung simple din here and then complex, meaning to say there is this gradual formation of life as you move through time, di ba? As you move through time, so na ay progression. So mao to nga it is a strong evidence of evolution. Mao po na ilahang giingon. So according to them, Earth forms 4.6 billion years ago, and at 2.5 billion years ago dito or earlier, okay, kaya na may Archean din So ang Archean is at least 2.5 billion years ago. So when you say Archeans, they are microorganisms that are ancient in terms sa ilahang origin. So we still do have Archeans. Okay, we still do have Archeans even until today. So my former biochemistry teacher, who is now a research professor sa Vanderbilt University, one of the leading universities in the US. So mao ni iyang specialty, Archeans. Okay, so he's a brilliant guy. So kana siya. So Jurassic Park, katong giingon Jurassic Park. So dinhi, and then we are here, and then na siya. So you see, the higher you go, the younger are the organisms. Okay, so let's proceed. So when you say fossilization, diba, we are all familiar with what fossils are. So fossilization is the process of fossil formation. So fossils are the remains or impressions of previous life forms that are embedded in rocks or amber. Such remains or impressions can reflect whole organisms or just representations of their bodies, skeletal fragments, and tracks and imprints. So anything na ay kanang gitawag natong remains of an organism, whether it is an animal or a plant or even bacteria, okay, that can be considered as fossils. So there are fossils that are preserved as whole siya, whole organism, na uban nga tracks lang kanang ilahang mga imprints, ilahang agi, okay, napoy uban nga segments lang, okay, hinana siya. So in many cases, body tissues were replaced with minerals, making some fossils appear to have rocky texture. So naay gitawag ng kanang gitawag og mineralization. Okay, so mineralization, so di ba soft tissue, especially sa animals or sa trees. Okay, so sa trees is ang katong mga organic nga content will be replaced with inorganic content and then mo solidify siya. So sa trees, di ba nakagitawag og petrified nga mga trees, petrified nga mga woods. So petrified from the word petra or petro, that means to say rocks, di ba, manang Peter. Okay, so Peter the rock, mao na siya. So petra man ang gitawag petrified woods, okay, are often due to many fossils can be found all over the world but can be better retrieved in larger land masses. So mana nga anywhere you go naagi siya fossils, where in fact ato akong gi-mention sa inyo, I went to tong last year dito ko sa Sikihor, I spent some 2 or 3 months there. And then kanang wa na kay lingaw, so I went fossil hunting dito sa bukid. Okay, so there are really sa kanang mga dagko kay nga mga rocks ba kay na may quarry dito. So na ay mga kuan dito kanang mga sea urchins nga imprints. So inana siya. So anywhere you go, mo na anay fossil. So mga tanan ta, why is it nga we really do not have that fossil remains dinhi sa Pilipinas, unlike sa US or sa Australia or sa Europe kato bitang mga mammoth, katong na ay mga T-Rex, mga Stegosaurus, di ba? Because fossils tend to be found or to be deposited more sa mga dagko nga mga land masses. So nganong mga dagko nga mga land masses? Because the bigger the land mass, the tendency man good is that the older nga na-expose siya sa kaning land. Okay, so mas karaan na ang mga dagko nga mga and then the Philippines, which is an archipelago, is geologically speaking is a younger kanang group of islands. So ang atong landmass dinhi is younger compared to other greater land masses. Say for example sa kaning mainland Asia, sa China, katong dito ka sa Russia, daghan kay na sila sa Europe, daghana na nila US, okay, North and South America, even ang Australia kay dako-dako na mo gud ang Australia. So expected nga mas daghan ang ilahang fossils dito. Okay, so mao na nga fossils can either be huge or by the way, nindot nga ato apo ni ma-consider nga naatay fossil collection dito sa Pilipinas. Okay, so kana siya because we do have fossils here in the Philippines. So fossils can either be huge organisms, say for example Brontosaurus, or even microscopic nga mga organisms, so diatoms and bacteria. So fossilization process is described below. So this is the general overview of how fossilization works. So an organism dies. This is just one example ha. Okay, so organism dies and then mawala ang ihang soft tissues. What is left is its skeletal remain, and then natabunan sa water, and then pag abot na sedimentation, di ba? Matabunan siya sa sediments, and then after lalom na kaayo, and then after pila ka kuan, this crust layer will be pushed upward or mawala na dayon ang katong water. So na-expose siya, and here comes the paleontologist nga naka-discover, na rediscover niya ang kaniyang remains. So makita nato din that sediments, it requires water, okay, for sedimentary rocks to form. So in this case, pananglitan kung mamatay man gani ning dinosaur, it should be covered with water first. Okay? Kay kung pasagdan lang na nimo nga dili na nimo tabunan og tubig, dili nimo tabunan siya og tubig, then it could be nga it will be dismantled through natural means. So say for example wind or other animals. So mao na nga makita nato nga there are organisms nga whole gyud ang ihang skeletal remains nga ma-preserve. Okay? So wala na siya moagi og katong mga wind or other animals. So meaning to say it was covered entirely with water. Okay, undisturbed pa gyud. Okay, so traditional view on fossilization is that it requires millions of years. However, it is challenged by the following discovery. So mao na nga naay kuan nga di ba katong gitawag natong mga fossils katong kang Darwin deep time nga principles as proposed by Charles Lyell, nga it was millions of years ang kaning fossilization process. Pero kung tan-aw nato, yeah, it can be. Pero kung tan-aw nato nga say for example kining dinosaur, okay, kung millions of years ni siya, ang iyang whole skeletal remains, okay, is dili siya evident. Kay pila may mahitabo nimo nga na ay rain, na ay wind, na ay mga animals nga mo agi din ha, and then plus decay pag yun. So kung exposed ni siya, kung dili siya tabunan nimo dayon og water, exposed ni siya, so there's no chance that it will be preserved as a whole. Okay, nga complete ang iyang skeletal remains. So kung there's no other logical nga kanang gitawag nato nga kaning logical nga idea nga kung makakita kag whole nga organism is tabunan gyud na nimo siya kani siya nga organism istabunan na nimo siya og water, di ba? Kay kung di na nimo tabunan og water and then kan tambakan dayon og sediment, then it is exposed to different factors nga gamay na lang kaayo. Okay, ang mga skeletal remains nga kuan, and on top of that naani ang mga kuan, mga ni challenge sa millions of years ang fossilization. So it is challenged with the following discoveries: preservation of soft tissues. Kani siya, this is very very this actually kani siya ni himuon siya og kanang buzz sa science field, especially sa paleontology and evolution, because kani siya Mary Switzer, okay, published a controversial paper on her team's discovery of preserved soft tissues and cells on T-Rex, Tyrannosaurus rex. Her discovery, which led to other similar discoveries, challenged the conventional method because process which was thought to take place millions of years, because if it were so, cells and soft tissues do not stand a chance against the decaying factors of the environment. So that's one. Okay, so kaning gitawag nga tong soft tissue. So you can actually search for Mary Switzer sa YouTube. There are a lot of kanang videos regarding sa iyahang mga interviews. So mao na kang Switzer and her team is nakita niya nga why is it nga na ay mga soft tissues nga makita nimo sa katong ilahang sa mga dinosaur bones, because kung ang soft tissues dali kay na siya i-decay, di ba? Dali kay na siya i-decay, 1 year ana hurot na pagka-decay, di ba? So kung ang isa ka organism, say for example ang isa ka dinosaur sa ilahang kuan isa T-Rex is namatay siya for millions of years, wala siya ma-buried instantaneously, and then subjected siya for many years of physical and chemical and environmental nga mga factors. So there's no chance for these soft tissues to survive kung millions of years siya nga exposed. Okay, so mo na siya, so it needs another explanation nganong na soft tissue. Okay, mo na nga grabe ka controversial ang kang Switzer. So you can actually read. I suggest that you read her story. Okay, what else? The death pose, kani. Another is the death pose. Some animals, particularly dinosaurs, displayed arched backs with mouths open wide, and this is considered as the death pose. And later on, ato nang tan-awon. So traditional view has it that asteroids wiped out dinosaur. Diba? We are actually made to believe that these dinosaurs were wiped out because of katong asteroid. However, analysis on the death pose would require to have a watery burial. So, man akong gi-mention sa inyo nga, since they are found in sedimentary rocks, ang kaning ato ang mga dinosaur fossils, then they are subjected to watery burial. Diba? Katong gi-mention, sedimentary rocks can only be found if na ay water. Kay ang mga sediments mo settle down, and then from one layer to another, mo na nga naatay kanang strata. Okay, what else? Rapid sedimentation. So Mount St. Helens in Washington State, USA erupted in 1980s. Geologists were surprised to see what should have been formed in millions of years. So unsa may ilang nakita sa katong Mount St. Helens nga eruption? Di ba? We are taught to believe that ang sedimentary rock formation is for millions of years. So sa Mount St. Helens 1980s ni kung siya na surprise ang Jones because they found or they discovered that there is a formation of sedimentary rocks and canyons in Mount St. Helens, and that is just for a couple of weeks. Okay, just in a couple of weeks, not millions of years. So this led to the confirmation of an older theory that sedimentation does not require millions of years to form, but only within hours. Hours are gani ang sedimentation. Ang katong canyon is weeks. So on one hand, the canyon that was formed is an evidence that the withdrawal of water can cause such formation in the minimal period of time. So mo na nga dito sa Mount St. Helens na ay canyon formation. So gamay ra gyud kaayo. Okay, gamay ra gyud kayo ang time nga gi-required for these canyons to form. So mao na nga gi-challenge dayon ang katong mga katubitang sa Grand Canyon sa Arizona, di ba? So could it be that this Grand Canyon nga together with its sedimentation and the canyons nga makita nato dito, could it be that it is formed not by millions of years but just a matter of of weeks or months or just a couple of years. So this then further challenges the approximate ages of both the canyons and sedimentary rocks throughout the world, because kung tan-aw nato, there are lots and lots of canyons throughout the world. Mga natong dimension. In fact, na din sa Pilipinas, we have our Grand Canyons. Okay? So rapid burial. Aside from the death pose, there are other fossils that can challenge the fossilization process. For instance, there are fossils of animals that were preserved while displaying their behavior. So mga rapid burial. So di ba niingon sila nga ang fossils matay ang kanang katong mga animals or katong mga organisms. Pero why is it that there are fossilized remains that display their behavior? Say for example, devouring and swimming. And I will be showing to you some of these images later on. What else? Morphological stasis, from the word morphology, which is shape, okay, or structure, and stasis is kanang stasis, static, okay, constant. So fossil discontinuity. So the deposits found in the Burgess and the Mauchantian Shale in China showed that most of the existing phyla were already found during the Cambrian period. Okay, so the events during the Cambrian explosion showed a sudden appearance of these phyla that do not have records that will connect to their supposed ancestors. This is actually one of the problems of Charles Darwin. Kanang gitawag nito Cambrian explosion. So when you say Cambrian explosion, I think I have already discussed this ato ang systematic biology. Nga there is this sudden appearance of the diversity of life in a very small time frame sa natural history. And Charles Darwin cannot find any nga links, kanang gitawag nato nga mga links nga maka-connect sa iyahang supposed ancestors to the current nga complex life forms or even sa katong mga fossil records. So wala naarang gyud kalit nga nitong ha. Okay, so that problem of Charles Darwin, okay, is also the problem today, because bisan pag naay mga fossils nga makita, still it does not point to a universal ancestor or to the previous mga ancestors. So further, what can be seen in the fossil seems to be morphologically similar to the existing counterparts. For example, turtles in the fossils are morphologically similar to turtles today. So with numerous other groups, this similarity in morphology is known as morphological stasis. So makita nato nga sa fossil records, yes, nanay mga fossil records, and then the same ra gyud ang body structure. Say for example, kato kung gi-mention kaniha, ang turtle sa una is turtle lang gihapon karon, morphologically speaking. Though ang turtle sa una are much bigger, siguro lahi ay ang shape or ang numbers ihang carapace, but they are still the same turtle. Okay? So meaning to say, ang kanang mga major nato nga animal groups or plant groups is dili nimo makita ang sa fossil records, is dili nimo makita nga naa siya'y slow and modified process nga ni change ang iyahang morphology from simple to complex. The fossil record is silent about that. Okay, man kitang morphological stasis. So sharks are still sharks. Okay, kana siya, fishes are still fishes. So that's morphological stasis. What else? The missing intermediate fossils. So in relation to morphological stasis, the fossil record immensely lacked the finely graduated intermediates that can connect the complex organisms to their supposed evolutionary ancestors. This puzzle persists before Darwin even until our present day. So man kung gi-mention ganiha nga almost all species nga makita nato is maglisod ka og there is not one nga species on earth nga makita nimo nga naa siya'y kaning gitawag ng fine graduation nga mga intermediates nga convincingly nga sila ang naay changes in terms sa ilahang morphology. Okay, so kana siya. So take note nga this puzzle persists even before Darwin until today. Okay, so hinana siya. So let's go to the images here, and I just pointed out sa katong fossil related, and then katong sa biology or katong molecular nga biology nga puzzles, I have discussed that one sa cell and mole nato nga subject. So kini siya. So this is Switzer's team sa katong soft tissue. So take a look at this one. These were actually recovered from the fossil of a T-Rex sa iyang bones. So makita nimo nga naay mga connective tissues here. You can see here the nucleus. Okay, here the nuclei, and you have here the tissues, the connective tissues that are found in the bones of T-Rex, so soft tissues, and there's no way that they can survive the elements of time, heat, pressure, what else, erosion, all of those things. Wala dili gyud maka stand a chance ang kaning gitawag natong soft tissues. And then nay katong mga critics sa kang Mary Switzer's nga kanang discovering siya nga isa ra man na siya, so ning siya nga sige granting nga isa ra siya, but Switzer made another discovery of these soft tissues from another fossil, coming from another dinosaur. Okay, so hinana siya, so mean to say there is this uniform nga kaning gitawag nato nga discovery of Switzer nga there are soft tissues that survived in many nga kanang gitawag nato nga fossils. So there again, akong emphasize, there is no way that they stand a chance against the elements of time. Okay, so here Grand Canyon o mao ni katong sa Mount St. Helens in 1980s, you can see the canyon formation. Ni siya nga gamay man siya, no di na gamay, tag 10 stories high ni kini siya, 10 to 20 stories high. So you can see the canyon formation. This is when katubitang lahar nga nahimo gikan sa eruption, di ba, sa Mount Pinatubo na naman to'y lahar. So the same is true with this Mount St. Helens. This was once kani nga area here, this is once a lush forest, baga kani siya nga forest. Okay, if you will pwede na ninyo i-google ang history sa Mount St. Helens katong before the explosion. So this is actually a lush forest. So makita nyo na ay Grand Canyon, and kung makita nyo sa screen, there are stratification that are found. Okay, that was dili siya supposed to occur because according to the traditional thinking nato nga ang kaning mga stratification can only be formed through millions of years. So na underwater, so naatanan ang elements of having sedimentation underwater. Sa underwater is naay sedimentation nga na deposit, mauna nga naay stratification nga nahitabo. And then when the water withdraws, so by the time nga ni gawas na ang water, so it carves sa kaning mga sediments, naa siya yung mga carving nga because ni withdraw naman siya towards other places nga lower in terms of altitude. So mao na nga naa siya canyon. So canyon and sedimentary formation of this geological form was accomplished within hours. Kini hours lang yun siya. Ang kato lang pag-withdraw, pagkahurot yun ani, mao to nga take og pila ka months. Pero ang sedimentation ni kuan siya og hours lang yun. Okay, hours lang. So you see nga it doesn't require millions of years for stratification and canyon formation nga ma-form siya. Okay, what else? Another here, katong gitawag natong death pose, di ba? When you say death pose, is arched ang iyang back, ang mouth is wide open, kana siya. And if you go to katong sa mga death pose, nga mga articles, you can go to Google Scholar. Ang one of the strongest theory nganong open ang ilang mouth ani siya is this is a watery burial. Okay, watery burial, meaning to say kalit na niya, they die because they drowned kana siya. And you can just find dozens and dozens of these death pose among fossilized dinosaurs, I mean. Okay, so common kani siyang gitawag kani siya ang formation. So open wide because they are grasping for air. Okay, arch ang iyang back, so hinana siya because of the pressure na kuan sa water. So they were buried under the sediments nga, so kung hinana siya nalumos siya, so meaning to say their death is not lengthy but sudden ang ilahang pagkamatay. Okay, what else? Behavior. So if fossilization takes millions of years, why is it that this fish was fossilized when it is in the act of eating? Diba? So kung millions of years siya, why is it that it is fossilized when it is in the act of eating? Okay, what else? Kini siya, a school of fish. Okay, a school of fish. So natambakan gyud ni siya og maayo og kanang mga sediments nga instantaneously because makita nato din they are actually in their behavior nga nag-swim sila towards in one direction, di ba? So natambakan din siya kalit dili kay katong gradual nga process of fossilization nga millions of years. So fish fossils displaying their behavior while buried, such fossils challenge the conventional view on fossilization over long periods of time. Okay, kani siya morphological stasis. This is a shark fossil. So magita nato dinhi ang basic nga body structure of kaning gitawag nato sharks. So moingon ta nga naay sharks nga nanagko, yes. Naay sharks nga nanggagmay, yes. Naay sharks nga naay mga modifications, yes, but sharks are still sharks. Di ba? So you cannot find a kanang gitawag nato nga kanang smaller or a more primitive form nga structure sa shark before it became a full-fledged nga shark. So mao bitaw na ang pangutana dayon karon is are we going to age the rocks, to measure the age of rocks to determine the age of these fossils or these animals, or are we going to determine the age of rocks by determining or by knowing the age of these animals? So which is which, di ba? So mo na ang kuan karon ang puzzle nga unsa may atong gamiton pag determine sa age of the earth, ang kani siyang fossils, okay, or ang kaning rocks, because they are actually at the same time, di ba? Kung tan-aw nato, they occur at the same time. Kini nga sediment, okay, is the same as this sediment. Okay, so mao na siya asa may atong basihan. So kung basihan din nato mo abot man gyud billions of years. So billions of years day ang shark, di ba? So dili siya mo tugma ba? Dili siya mo tugma. So that's actually one thing nga isettle pod sa kanang gitawag nato evolutionary biology. So there are 5 general types of fossils. Body fossils, remains of the entire body of an organism, including those that were trapped in saps and later on formed in ambers. Okay, body fossils. Entire body. Molds and casts, imprints of different organisms, can be internal, okay, or external. Okay, and later on ato nang tan-awon. Footprints or trackways, imprints of the potential motion of organisms, may lead to the understanding of their behavior. Petrification, katong petrified woods, di ba? Made up of organisms replaced with minerals that later on solidified to become rocks. Okay, so pinaka-common na petrified trees, where in fact there are petrified forest na ay mga kuan gyud isa ka area where there is a huge deposit of petrified trees. Okay, so coprolites discovers all fossilized feces on different animals and may provide clues on the potential diet of different animals. So of the fossils found, 95% are marine organisms. At least 90% of the remaining 5% are plants and invertebrates. So marine. So mga tanatang anong marine man, because remember that sedimentation takes place underwater. So this makes vertebrate fossils more challenging to find. Okay, so can you see? So this is a trilobite. So there's already diversity of trilobite. This is Arthropoda class Trilobata, if you can recall your taxonomy. Okay, so trilobites are already extinct nga class. And then extinct na siya, and then they also showed diversity. Okay, most common fossils that can be found. Okay, so paleontology, the discipline that studies fossils that aims to understand the past environment. So what makes paleontology relevant to evolution is that it can attempt to establish the changes that different organisms underwent over time. So paleontology can also help us understand the diversity and ecology of the past natural environments. And there are different major fields. You have vertebrate paleontology, invertebrate paleontology, and paleobotany. Paleontological finds were mostly displayed in specialized museums. So, example, mga museums of natural history. So, here in the Philippines, we have our very own So I don't know if how many of you have already visited the Natural Museum, Natural History. So the last time I went there, that was 2018. Yeah, 2018, and kulang ang isa ka adlaw kung tan-awon gyud nimo, studyhan gyud nimo ang natural history nato sa Pilipinas. Okay, kulang ang isa ka adlaw nga magpuyo kag National Museum, okay, of Natural History. So kana siya. So naa dito daghan kayo ang makita nimo na katong makita sa Pilipinas, okay? And not only that, dili lang kay fossils makita, other nga katong mga mounted nga mga specimen, tang mga taxidermy. Okay? Oy, mana. Okay, so mana nga to ang by the way, kung ato kag National Museum, makita nimo ang remnant sa or katong bones sa Rhinoceros philippinensis. O Rhinoceros philippinensis, so that's the Philippine rhinoceros. So mao na nga through that findings, through that fossil, mabal-an day nato nga ang Pilipinas day natay own species of rhinoceros. Where in fact, naapoy uban nga nakakita, 'di ba, sa katong, I don't know if nakita mo atong kapuso mo Jessica Soke MJS, nga nakakita siya og katong jaw sa mammoth. Okay? Jaw sa mammoth, meaning to say na ay mga ancient elephants that dwell in our country, 'di ba? Ang uban po, they believe nga na ay mga tigers, saber-tooth tigers din sa Pilipinas. We do have tigers before. So mao na nga, because of paleontology, we know kung unsa ang past nga environment sa una. Past nga environment sa una. Redundant to siya. Okay, kana siya. Og si Lolong, naapo dito si Lolong, ang taxidermy ni Lolong, pating taas gyud ang Lolong. Kung katong pinakadako nga captive nga crocodile, so pating yun ang dako ang Lolong. So mao na nga, I encourage you to visit natural museums, because especially that we are in the biological sciences, because you can learn kung unsa ang past nga flora and fauna sa kana nga particular nga area or location. Okay, so ang naa sa Pilipinas nga natural museum, natural history, is different. Kung matupog ka og Brazil, nindot pod ang lahang natural history museum dito. Ato kag US, lahi pod. Ang sa Europe, lahi pod. Ang sa Africa, lahi pod. Ang dinhi sa Australia, lahi pod. So you see, you can see katong biogeography ba, you can see the differences and the richness of life forms if you study or if you go to natural museums, museum natural history. Okay, so I think maura man siguro to siya. So this is just a short presentation. So I hope nga you can actually appreciate sa katong ato ang diversity of life. Okay, and I hope you also have to kana bitaw i-widen ang inyong horizon sa inyong pag-understand, especially sa origin of life. You will I encourage you to dwell on the readings, some readings, especially sa katong kang Switzer and other kato siya, other nga katong mga objections sa millions of years. Okay, Switzer, sa katong morphological stasis, what else, katong sa Mount St. Helens, kana siya, because that can actually change how we view our planet. Okay, so I think that's all for today, and see you next topic. Bye bye, and God bless us all.